There is a kind of pain that doesn't come from harsh words. It doesn't come from arguments. It doesn't come from being yelled at. It comes from silence, from messages that are never replied to, from calls that stop coming, from conversations that slowly disappear without explanation. And after 60, silence hurts differently. Because at this age, you're not looking for drama. You're not asking for attention. You're not trying to be right. You're just hoping to feel remembered. Silence doesn't tell you, I disagree. Silence tells you, you don't matter enough to respond. And that quiet message cuts deeper than words ever could. Silence doesn't argue with you. It slowly erases you. 1. Why silence feels so painful later in life. When you're younger, silence often feels temporary. People are busy. Life moves fast. You tell yourself, they'll call back. Things will settle. This will pass. But after 60, silence feels different. It doesn't feel like a pause. It feels like an ending. It feels as if something was decided quietly, without your voice in the room. Like a door closing slowly, without a sound, without warning. At this stage of life, connection means something else. You don't need constant messages. You don't need excitement or long conversations. You don't need to be the center of attention. You just need to know that you still exist in someone's thoughts, that you still matter enough to be remembered. So when silence appears, your heart doesn't translate it as, they're busy, or life got in the way. Your heart hears something much heavier. I am no longer important. Silence after 60 isn't about time. It's about worth. And the longer the silence stretches, the louder that question grows inside you. Not angrily, not dramatically, just quietly. Did I do something wrong? Did I say too much? Or not enough? Or did I simply fade, without anyone noticing? That unanswered question is what makes silence hurt so deeply later in life. 2. Silence feels like rejection, even when it isn't. The hardest part about silence is not the quiet itself. It's what the quiet allows your mind to do. When there are no words, your thoughts step in to fill the space. And the mind, especially in lonely moments, is rarely gentle. You start replaying old conversations. You remember small details that once felt harmless. A tone, a pause, a sentence you wish you could take back. You wonder if you talked too much, if you asked for too little, if you said something wrong without realizing it. And slowly, without meaning to, you begin blaming yourself. Silence offers no answers, no closure, no explanation to hold on to. So your heart creates its own story. And most of the time, that story is written in pain. Words can be clarified. Silence cannot. When silence comes from people you care about, it doesn't feel neutral or harmless. It doesn't feel like space. It feels like rejection without a reason. And that uncertainty cuts deeply, because the heart would rather hear something difficult than feel nothing at all. 3. Why silence hurts more than an argument. An argument, as painful as it can be, still carries one important thing: engagement. Someone cared enough to speak, to react, to stay in the conversation. Even anger means presence. Even disagreement means the connection is still alive. Silence is different. Silence feels like effort has been withdrawn, like you are no longer worth explaining things to, like the relationship is being quietly set aside. After 60, this hits much deeper. By this point in life, you have already lived through loss. You've lost people you loved. You've lost roles that once defined you. You've lost chapters of life that will never return. So when someone chooses silence, it doesn't arrive as a small moment. It reopens old wounds you thought had healed. An argument says, we're still connected. Silence says, I've already left. That realization doesn't crash into you all at once. It settles slowly, like a weight in your chest. You feel it when you hesitate before reaching out, when you lower your expectations, when you stop hoping for a response. And that quiet adjustment, learning to expect less from someone you once trusted, is what makes silence hurt more than any argument ever could. 4. When silence comes from family. Silence hurts most when it comes from family, because family is where you expect safety without explanation. It's where you believe you don't have to earn your place. Family is supposed to be familiar, constant, the place you return to when the rest of the world feels uncertain. So when family grows quiet, you don't just lose conversation, you lose orientation. You begin to wonder where you fit now, what your role is in their lives, whether you are still needed or simply remembered. The calls slow down, the visits become shorter, the messages feel polite instead of warm, and suddenly, you're not sure where you stand anymore. Family silence doesn't feel like distance. It feels like displacement. It feels like being gently pushed to the edge of a story you once helped write. No one prepares you for this stage of life, when you're still alive, still caring, still present, but no longer centered in the lives of the people you love. You sit at the same table, in the same home, yet something feels different. Not loud, not dramatic, just quietly unfamiliar. And that quiet shift, that feeling of no longer knowing your place, is what makes family silence so deeply painful. 5. Why you don't speak up about the silence. You don't speak up about the silence because you don't want to sound needy. You don't want to seem dramatic. And you certainly don't want to appear ungrateful. So instead, you choose to stay quiet too. You tell yourself to be understanding. You remind yourself that people are busy. You convince yourself that giving space is the mature thing to do, that bringing it up might make things awkward, that saying nothing is safer than saying too much. But silence added to silence doesn't create peace. It creates distance. And over time, it turns into loneliness. You're not quiet because you don't care. You're quiet because you're afraid of pushing people further away. Deep down, you worry that if you mention the silence, they might retreat even more, that your honesty could become the reason they stop showing up at all. So you swallow the words you want to say. You soften your needs. You lower your expectations. And slowly, you train yourself to accept less connection than your heart actually needs. From the outside, you look calm, reasonable, understanding. Inside, you're carrying the weight of being unseen. Not because you lack courage, but because you've learned that silence sometimes feels like the only way to keep what little closeness remains. 6. What silence is really asking you to notice. Sometimes silence isn't about being abandoned. It's about misalignment. People grow. Lives shift. Priorities change in ways no one announces out loud. Relationships don't always end with conflict. Sometimes they drift, quietly, awkwardly, without intention. Roles you once held begin to loosen. The version of you others relied on is no longer needed in the same way. And life keeps moving forward, even when your heart is still catching up. But understanding this doesn't make the pain disappear. Just because silence is unintentional doesn't mean it's harmless. Your pain is real, even if no one meant to hurt you. Your sadness is valid, even if there was no argument. Your confusion makes sense, even if there was no goodbye. Silence asks you to notice what has changed, not so you can blame yourself, but so you can stop holding on to roles that no longer fit. It asks you to see which relationships still meet you with effort, and which ones now require you to shrink to stay connected. And most importantly, silence invites you to turn inward and ask, where am I still showing up for people who no longer show up for me? Not to harden your heart, but to protect it. Because clarity is not cruelty, and choosing where your energy goes is not abandonment. It's self-respect. If silence has been hurting you lately, please hear this gently. You are not too sensitive. You are not imagining the pain. And you are not asking for too much. Wanting to be remembered is human. Wanting to feel seen, even quietly, is natural. Silence does not define your worth. It only shows who is able, and who is no longer able, to meet you where you are in this season of life. You don't need to chase sound. You don't need to explain your pain repeatedly. You don't need to beg for presence. The people who truly matter will make room for you, without being asked. And if some don't, you're still here, still meaningful, still worthy of connection that feels warm, steady, and real. Your heart has not faded. It has simply learned to listen more carefully to where it is welcomed.